Book of Job, chapter 41. But wilt thou catch the serpent with a hook, and put a halter about his nose? Or wilt thou fasten a ring in his nostril, and bore his lip with a clasp? Will he address thee with a petition, softly, with the voice of a suppliant? And will he make a covenant with thee? And wilt thou take him for a perpetual servant? And wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or bind him as a sparrow for a child? And do the nations feed upon him, and the nations of the Zidonians share him? And all the ships come together would not be able to bear the mere skin of his tail, neither shall they carry his head in fishing vessels. But thou shalt lay thy hand upon him once, remembering the war that is waged by his mouth, and let it not be done any more. Hast thou not seen him? And hast thou not wondered at the things said of him? Dost thou not fear, because preparation has been made by me? For who is there that resists me? Or who will resist me and abide, since the whole world under heaven is mine? I will not be silent because of him, though, because of his power, one shall pity his antagonist. Who will open the face of his garment? And who can enter within the fold of his breastplate? Who will open the doors of his face? Terror is round about his teeth. His inwards are as brazen plates, and the texture of his skin as a smerite stone. One part cleaves fast to another, and the air cannot come between them. They will remain united, each to the other. They are closely joined, and cannot be separated. At his sneezing a light shines, and his eyes are as the appearance of the morning star. Out of his mouth proceed, as it were, burning lamps, and as it were, hearths of fire are cast abroad. Out of his nostrils proceeds smoke of a furnace, burning with fire of coals. His breath is as live coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. And power is lodged in his neck. Before him destruction runs. The flesh also of his body is joined together. If one pours violence upon him, he shall not be moved. His heart is firm as a stone, and it stands like an unyielding anvil. And when he turns, he is a terror to the four-footed wild beasts which leap upon the earth. If spears should come against him, men will effect nothing, either with the spear or the breastplate. For he considers iron as chaff, and brass as rotten wood. The bow of brass shall not wound him. He deems a slinger as grass. Moles are counted as stubble, and he laughs to scorn the waving of the firebrand. His lair is formed of sharp points, and all the gold of the sea under him is an immense quantity of clay. He makes the deep boil like a brazen cauldron, and he regards the sea as a pot of ointment, and the lowest part of the deep as a captive. He reckons the deep as his range. There is nothing upon the earth like to him, formed to be sported with by my angels. He beholds every high thing, and he is king of all that are in the waters. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Job chapter 41. So Job chapter 41 has 34 verses, and we're going to start in verse 1. It reads, Serpent versus Leviathan. So this is potentially a sea monster or a dragon. And the word Leviathan, Leviathan, means sea monster or dragon. A large aquatic animal. Some speculate this could be a crocodile or even a plesiosaurus. But I think we're going to unravel this mystery of the true identity of Leviathan by the end of this video. Again, verse 1, it says catch versus draw out, so to lure out. Put a halter about his nose, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down. A halter is a harness or a strap that goes around the nose versus a cord that goes around his tongue. We're going to skip ahead to verse 3. It's important to notice this is, in fact, a creature that does have the power of speech. So the question is, do dragons or sea dragons, sea creatures, do they have the power of speech? Or is this another type of being? Could this be a supernatural being? An angel, perhaps? Verse 4, he will make a covenant with thee. So in the chance that this is Satan the devil, Leviathan, the serpent, as it's identified in the Septuagint, the question is, did Satan the devil make a covenant with Elohim? Do they have an agreement? Because ultimately, Satan is bound under the authority of Elohim. He is under his authority, whether he likes it or not, because he is not omnipotent. He is not omniscient. He is not omnipresent either. He is indeed bound by limitations that are imposed upon him by Elohim, the Elohim of Israel. Satan the devil is a servant in some senses, because he is ultimately serving the purposes of Adonai, Hashem, whether he knows it or not, whether he wants to or not. Verse 6, do the nations feed upon him, and the nations of the Zidonians share him? So the nations versus companions. This could be the Goyim, as it's said in Hebrew, or partners or associates. It can be, this word companions can be translated as either or. And then we have Zidonians or Phoenicians, which are a specific people group versus merchants in the Masoretic. Verse 7, all the ships come together would not be able to bear the mere skin of his tail. Versus, can you fill his skin with barbed irons? Neither shall they carry his head in fishing vessels, versus filling his head with fishing or with fish spears. So they will not be able to carry his weight or his size, the weight of his skin, versus being able to attack him in the Masoretic. Verse 26. Oh, it's actually not 26. That's in the Masoretic. It's 26, I believe. But in any case, let's just move forward. So one question or one possibility is, could this be a crocodile, Leviathan? Well, this cannot be a crocodile, because how can all the ships not be able to bear the skin of his tail? The largest known crocodile recorded in history is around 30 feet long, and bearing the skin of that creature is completely possible by any ship, or not any ship, but most ships can bear that weight. So is this mere hyperbole? Is this an exaggeration in the book of Job? I don't believe so, personally. The next question is, who resists me? This could be more of a giant creature, as Hollywood calls it, a kaiju, giant monsters, the likes of which we have never seen before. Or perhaps this is simply Satan. But we'll continue and explore this further as we get further into the text. Verse 8, but thou shalt lay thy hand upon him once, versus lay thine hand upon him. So, question for this verse, is this a messianic verse? Is this a reference to Messiah laying his hand upon him, Leviathan, only once? Why? Because the war that is waged by his mouth, let it not be done anymore. Verses remember the battle. So notice that's a glaring omission. The war that is waged by his mouth. What does that even mean? This seems to be Satan the devil, because he wages his battles and his wars with lies and deceits that he speaks through his mouth, versus the Masoretic, simply a cryptic statement. Doesn't seem to make any sense. Remember the battle. What battle? And do no more. Versus let it not be done anymore. This is clearly referring back to allowing Leviathan, or actually the serpent as he's called in the Septuagint, to not wage these wars with his mouth by him possibly spreading lies, deceits, misinformation, what have you, propaganda. Who else can prevent, question, who else can prevent this? Who can stop the mouth of the serpent from being able to spread lies? Only one of two entities. It's either the angel, Michael, the archangel, or it's Adonai, it's Hashem himself in the form of Mashiach, Yeshua. And we know Revelation has a mention of the great angel Michael taking hold of Satan the devil and then binding him with a chain, and I think placing him into a pit for a time, 1,000-year period. Verse 9, hast thou not seen him? Behold, the hope of him is in vain. So have you seen him? The answer is no, if this is Satan. Job has not seen Satan with his eyes. He's not even privy to know what has been done behind the scenes of his experience. Perhaps Job is not even aware of Satan's existence. Most likely he is not, or at least he's not aware of the influence Satan has had and his just how much he has done to Job. Versus the hope of Leviathan. The hope of Leviathan is nothingness, it's vanity. Hast thou not wondered at the things said of him? Versus shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? So it seems that the reputation of the serpent precedes it. Have you not wondered at the things said about Satan? Versus simply looking at it, at Leviathan, people will faint or be defeated. Verse 10, we have a massive cataclysmic difference. It reads, "Dost thou not fear, because preparation has been made by me?" Verses, "None is so fierce that dare stir him up." Excuse me, why is this a massive, potentially cataclysmic difference? Because Elohim has made preparations to deal with him, the serpent, with Satan the devil. There's a preparation to be made to put him away for 1,000 years, and then he's going to be released a short while. And then after that period of 1,000 years, he's allowed to, after the 1,000-year reign, I should say, and then he's let loose for a short while. We don't know how long that will be, but he will be taken away permanently this time to be placed in the lake of fire. That's what it's speaking of, in my opinion. The preparation made by me as it relates to the serpent. Verses, "For who," I should say, "no one is brave enough to confront or even anger Leviathan." So again, referring back to this giant sea creature, potentially a dinosaur. We have a huge difference, massive difference in the same verse. "Who is there that resists me?" Versus, "Who then is able to stand before me?" So who can resist Elohim? Versus, who can stand in his presence? Who can fight Elohim or be unaffected by him? Versus to simply be in his presence. Job is technically standing before Elohim, if you think about it. So which one is more right? Verse 11, "Or who will resist me and abide? Since the whole world under heaven is mine." Versus, "Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine." So this is building on the previous verse, reiterating that Elohim cannot be resisted, and whoever tries to will not abide. Versus, "Who has stopped Elohim?" Which is a new thought separate from standing before Elohim. Abide, the word abide means to live, to survive. So who can live, who can survive by resisting him, versus that I should repay, or could be rendered justice unto, to complete or to finish. Verse 12, "I will not be silent because of him, though because of his power one shall pity his antagonist." The footnote for antagonist reads in the hard copy, "equal." So this could be an equal match to Leviathan or to Satan, or someone who wishes to contend with him, perhaps. Not that they are equal in power, but simply just the adversary of the serpent, which is an interesting way to look at him, because his name means adversary. An alternative possibility is, how can this be Satan, unless he means equal in terms of simply being the other opponent, as I just stated. Versus, "I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion." So Elohim will not be silent. Why? Because of Satan, or Leviathan, because the truth must prevail over the lies. So that is what is being said in the Septuagint. Satan is strong, truly, and he's a roaring lion. Those who try to fight him, others will take pity on them. Versus, Elohim will not hide the form, the power, and the beauty of Leviathan. Interesting, the beauty. Verse 13, "Open," versus discover, "and who can enter within the fold of his breastplate? Who can come to him with his double bridle?" So who can enter inside of Satan's breastplate, the dragon's breastplate? versus a double bridle of the person approaching Leviathan. So is this Leviathan himself who possesses the double bridle? Unclear. Verse 15. His inwards are as brazen plates, versus his scales are as his pride. So his inner organs are like bronze plates. Is that what it's saying? Versus his scales are his pride. So like a reptilian creature. The texture of his skin is as smearite stone, shut up together as with a close seal. So smearite stone, aka emery or corundite, is a dark rock or stone, possibly visually similar to... So if you've ever seen the movie... if you've ever seen the movie The Lord of the Rings, smearite stone is visually similar to the creature in this image, the Balrog. So that is possibly, and it's described in the Septuagint. This is what its skin looks like. So is this a dragon? Is this a crocodile? Doesn't seem to be a crocodile. It could be a dragon. That's a strong possibility. A dragon with this type of skin, or simply this is Satan's, one of his forms where his skin looks like that. And interestingly enough, this creature is very demonic. It's a demonic type of creature, demonic looking creature. Whereas in the Masoretic, it continues the narrative of possibly being a crocodile, Leviathan, that his scales are bound close together. Verse 18, his eyes are as the appearance of the morning star, versus his eyes are like the eyelids, dawn, rays of sun of the morning. So I'll show you another picture. So here's an AI generated image of Yeshua. However, notice the description in the Masoretic is, and even the Septuagint, that his eyes are like the appearance of the morning star, like a very bright, it's like a celestial being whose eyes are like the sun or like planets. So again, very much a supernatural being, not a crocodile, possibly a dragon though. Notice hearths of fire are cast abroad versus sparks. So hearths are furnaces, multiple furnaces, or fireplaces, or a stove, versus mere sparks. That's the difference of the fire-breathing ability. So I don't believe this is one veiled reference to fire-breathing. Rather, I believe this section is shouting, this is an entity, whether a dragon or Satan himself, an entity that is able to breathe fire. Verse 21, his breath is as live coals. His breath kindles coals, so his breath is burning like live coals, or he's able to kindle these coals. Footnote reads, his soul is like live coals. Verse 22, and his power is lodged in his neck, versus his neck remains strength, or in his neck, I should say. So power lives in his neck, versus there remains stores or some strength in his neck. We have a massive cataclysmic difference in this verse. It reads, before him destruction runs, versus sorrow is turned into joy before him. So why is this a massive cataclysmic difference? Because Satan is a powerful entity. He's fearful. But to depict him as a joyful, benevolent entity who makes sad people happy, this is a cataclysmic difference, potentially, because, again, if this is indeed Satan, then these things are true in the Septuagint, that destruction runs away from him, versus the Masoretic speaking very untrue things of Satan. He doesn't make sad people happy. Truly happy, I should say. Verse 23, the flesh also of his body is joined together versus the flakes of his flesh. So how can a celestial being or angel have flesh? So that is an interesting verse. I'm not sure how to make sense of that. So is this a dragon? If one pours violence upon him, he shall not be moved. They are firm in themselves, they cannot be moved. So this is speaking of his ability to not be moved by any attack, versus speaking of his flesh being impenetrable or immune to attack. Verse 24, his heart is firm as a stone. It stands like an unyielding anvil. This has deep spiritual repercussions, this verse. It means that he is not willing to yield. He is not willing to humble himself or to lower himself, or even open his heart, perhaps, to turning around and repenting of his ways. Versus, yes, as hard as a piece of the nether, which is a millstone. So which is tougher, an anvil or a millstone? An anvil is tougher. Thus, Satan or Leviathan or the serpent, however you want to interpret this, is completely unyielding in the Septuagint. Completely unyielding. Verse 25, when he turns, versus when he raises up himself. So he is a terror to the four-footed wild beasts. Versus the Elim. What are the Elim? The ram, could be the strong men or the mighty tree. They are afraid of him. Which leap upon the earth. Versus an addition of, by reason of breakings they purify themselves. So animals that leap on earth are afraid. Versus a random, cryptic, mysterious statement, which makes little sense. Verse 26, if spear should come against him, men will effect nothing. Versus the sword of him that lays or reaches at him cannot hold, it cannot rise up. So the spear will have zero effect, will do zero damage to him, versus the sword is unable to attack, it cannot attack him. Verse 27, chaff. This is fried inedible husks that are separated from the grain, versus straw, which are dried stalks of cereal plants. Verse 28, the bow of brass would not wound him, typo here in the Q Bible, versus the arrow cannot make him flee. So the bow of brass cannot hurt him at all, versus cannot make him afraid so that he ends up retreating. He deems his slinger as grass, versus sling stones are turned with him into stubble. So grass versus stubble, pretty simple there. Verse 29, just for your information, mauls are heavy wooden headed hammers. That's what they are. Versus darts in the Masoretic. And then we have a firebrand, which is a piece of burning wood. It could be a torch versus a spear. Verse 30 is layer is formed of sharp points versus sharp stones are under him. So it's his layer versus simply being underneath him. All the gold of the sea under him, verse 30, is an immense quantity of clay. So he does not value gold, it seems. Or it's just there's an abundant amount of gold under him. I'm not sure. Could be either or. Versus he spreads sharp-pointed things upon the mire, the swampy ground. Verse 31, he makes the deep boil like a brazen cauldron. And he regards the sea as a pot of ointment. Can't be a crocodile. Still could be a giant dragon, like a type of, again, Godzilla, like a kaiju that can breathe fire. Or it's Satan. But is Satan dwelling in the ocean? I don't know. I can't answer that. Regards versus makes. He he regards the sea. So he sees the sea as a pot of ointment versus he turns the sea into a pot of ointment. So those are two very different things. I'll just put significant difference. Verse 32, you have another significant difference. The lowest part of the deep as a captive versus he makes a path to shine after him. Another significant difference, he reckons the deep as his range. So this is his territory versus one would think the deep to be hoary, so to be white. That doesn't really make sense. He is king of the water. It's going to be reiterated. There is nothing on the earth like him, for him to be sported with by my angels, who is made without fear. Okay, so if this is a fleshly being, and this is the king of all of the oceans, a dragon, a mighty beast, unlike any ever made, a giant water dragon that breathes fire, or if this is an angel, and more specifically Satan, the devil, or maybe one of the other angels mentioned in the book of Enoch. There are many. I'm not going to name them all, but there are demons there. And he was made to be not sported, like played with like a play toy, but mocked by the angels of Elohim. That is one possibility to, if you're interpreting the word sported, to be mocked. So that connotation very much could be applicable in this context and makes a lot of sense, quite frankly. Verses, he has no fear. Verse 34, he beholds every high thing. He is the king of all that are in the waters. Verses, he is king over all the children of pride, which means majestic wild beasts. So the Septuagint depicts this serpent as king of all ocean life. The Masoretic depicts Leviathan as Satan in this verse, or as king of the beasts, because pride is usually associated with the devil. That was the sin that was found in him. Okay, so you will have noticed this video that was made for this video, the Mystery of Leviathan. So I hope we've answered that. There are many interpretations and ideas of whether Leviathan is a T-Rex. I've heard that, a crocodile, that he's a dragon, and I'm open to that possibility of Leviathan being a dragon, or the T-Rex even being a dragon. However, I believe from everything we've read in this chapter, the evidence seems to point to a being with the ability to speak. So the power of speech, which we know the serpent had in the Garden of Eden, as well as a being that wages war with his mouth. And that seems to fit the description of the dragon in Revelation. So Leviathan, the dragon, the serpent of old, Satan the devil, whatever you want to call him, it seems to be the true identity of Leviathan. Although it's speaking of physical metaphors and saying that the weight of his skin, the ships can't even bear, but when you go deeper into just who this being is, this is unlike any other creature that Elohim has made, and so Satan does seem to fit this description. So, in my opinion, could be wrong, but it could very well be Satan, and I believe might be right. But time will tell. That's why I've created this AI-generated image that a lot of people have assumed it's a crocodile, or is it a dragon? But behind that facade, it is most likely Satan the devil. So I hope that was interesting and helpful. And I just wanted to present what is in the Septuagint, the truth of the word of Elohim. So thank you very much for your time. Please comment below. What do you think of this? These possibilities, and who do you think Leviathan is? Thank you very much for your time, and please like this video and subscribe, hit the notification button as well, so you will be up to speed with all our recent uploads. We're closing this book of Job very soon, and what that means is we will have our summary video, which are usually our most watched videos on this channel because people don't want to watch every single chapter, and I understand that it's quite time consuming. So this is done. These summary videos are done in order to save people a lot of time. Instead of watching hundreds of hours of content, you can get the Reader's Digest version. Usually they're typically less than an hour. I'm not sure how long this one will be because out of all the books we've covered so far, Esther has been dramatically different, and Job at least as much, maybe if not more so than Esther. I think there's even more differences in Job, in my opinion. But so that's what we have up ahead, coming up, and then moving on to the book of Psalms. I'm very, very excited for that to be released. I have very exciting plans for that, and I've already done the first video for Psalm 1, and expect that in the next week or so. So thanks again for your time. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you, and Maranatha.